All right. So this woman jumps into my Reddit inbox and she gives me the title and she goes ahead and just gives y'all the trigger warning. She says, "The B word, the poo bucket, and the boundary." That's the title. The B word, the poo bucket, and the boundary. The trigger warning is kind of already in the title. She says, "My friends, I almost didn't tell this tale, and once I begin, you will no doubt know why. Let me pour you some tea and share the story of the B word, the poo bucket, and the boundary. Consider this your first and final trigger warning, as this will no doubt be messy in more ways than one." She says, "Let me pour you some tea. Please do not get any tea. Don't do it." She says our heroine, the capital B word, as accused by the man in her life, called her this slur in anger once and only once. She had divulged to him that were he to give in to his anger and hurl a misogynist slur, that her switch would henceforth be switched off. He would cease to exist to her as a friend and a lover for eternity, proving himself to be no more than a threat to her existence. There had been years of other offenses, but for complicated reasons, childhood wounds, and trauma bonds, she didn't remove herself sooner, only to regret this wasted time later. One day, after his cruelty became unbearable, she admitted that she no longer felt the same way towards this man and that things had not been as before. She could no longer tolerate the intolerable. In a tale as old as time, the B slur was hurled at her in anger in reaction to his rejection. Now known as the B word, our heroine, instead of cowering, chose to rise and receive this label as a badge of honor. This felt like warrior status that the goddesses would surely approve, because her boundary and the truth were seen as a vile threat to the need for control. The switch had been flipped, and any remaining attraction to him died that day. It was a heavy, intangible feeling that held the heroine still as the perpetuator ran out the door in anger and frustration. She did not demonstrate a willingness to forgive the last 5 minutes of madness. She locked, she blocked, she deleted the entire app and felt safety behind the walls that the B word built for her own safety, sovereignty, and health. If she could have built a castle made of ice, she would be ready to let it go. Already, I really like how this narrator is creating this story. But our newly crowned B word was not out of the woods yet. Enter the poo bucket. Literally, a bucket with poo of unknown origin appears at her door 6 days later. Flies and wasps swarming it made it an especially nasty and potentially dangerous biohazard. Luckily, a little boiling water and Pine Sol wiped the tantrum away with haste, but the negativity hovered still. Remarkably, the suspect and likely producer of this mystery bucket had just returned from a 5-day-long camping trip with the boys out in the woods without plumbing. The average sleuth would likely come to the same conclusion that the suspect and the poo delivery service were one and the same. Theories and questions are welcome, as it remains an urban legend to the small circle of people who were made privy, LOL, to the incident. We have so many questions, such as, "Sir, was it yours? What the F?" And regardless of the source of the poo in question, therapy is very highly recommended. Did you bring that bucket back with you from camping? And indeed, how? Did you perhaps squat to poop at the front door or at home first and then deliver it late under the cover of night? Perhaps you simply found a dog's offerings somewhere around your property. The suspect has now been dubbed Bucket. I'll just call him Poo Bucket because I don't really cuss like that. Or interchangeably with Smear. I do like Smear, so I'll call him Smear. The incident was reported to the landlord, but otherwise it has been a nasty enigma that is likely left best unsolved. The offender is quite obvious to those involved, giving other clues left at the scene. The timeline and motive for that bucket of big hurt feelings at the door were clear. Rejection hurts, but behaving like one of the Sims leaving poo at the door like a jilted lover after a bad date makes you the subject of ridicule. Your salty tears and big stinky hurt feelings were ignored entirely, other than to make some interesting observations and gross but amusing jokes in the aftermath. Boundaries were honored, the perpetrator was ignored and mocked entirely without making further contact because they no doubt wanted some reaction. any reaction. Revenge was considered, and throwing available dog turds back through the suspect's open window was considered, of course, but karma truly is most effective in her own time. There may or may not have been some return to sender witchy protection invoked that night from the B word, who had not really considered herself to be much of one before. There is a reason that witches and B words have been considered interchangeable by evil males throughout history, so this writer considers herself honored to be an official member of both clubs formed from the difficult women of his or her story. Remember the threefold rule, folks. Anything you send to me, I'll send it back to you 3 times. The craft taught us that. And whether it's countering a voodoo curse or invoking protection from dark negativity, the result is the same. Protection, healing, and personal empowerment as self-defense, which is the ultimate form of self-love and self-respect. Terrifying. The idea of an empowered woman, isn't it? Moo-ha-ha-ha-ha. Thanks to these unintended gifts, the witch has risen and will henceforth walk her empowered path out in the forest with cats in peace. Hugs and kisses, Queen Bee. Then she says, update, 3 months after the incident in question, no contact has been maintained entirely and boundaries remain firm. The castle walls never crumbled. The Poo Bucket suspect was seen walking towards the Bee's home while she was out front visiting with a dear friend. Upon noticing the offender, the 2 women entered the home and shut the door with his greeting hanging in the air, going unanswered. He was rightfully rejected again with a powerful message delivered without words. Karma handled it. Karma handled it beautifully, and so did the B word that day. So after I got that, I was like, hello, LOL, is this real? And she responded. She says, hi again. Yes, I swear it's all true. LOL, crazy, I know, and I almost didn't share. I felt the need to cleanse my space by smudging with sage and put salt at the door in case of voodoo after the Poo Bucket incident. It felt like ill intent, but I didn't want to take chances. Even did my own version of a protection spell and sent it back 3-fold. Except for becoming the full manifestation of a witch walking the woods with cats, what I want to be when I grow up. LOL. I'm still intentionally single in the city, Winnipeg, Canada. No more Poo Bucket incidents since July. But the day after my friend and I ignored the suspect walking by, I discovered the broken part of an electric floor fan outside my front door. What I said to my girlfriend was perhaps it was random kids messing around in the neighborhood. Or someone is not a fan. LOL. Sometimes the truth is weirder than fiction. No. This woman is an amazing storyteller. I had to tell y'all that story. And at first, as she was narrating, I'm like, this definitely sounds like some kind of urban fiction. But like people write to me all the time. We have some good writers in our midst. And I'm glad that our Canadian neighbor wrote to me. So I definitely appreciate that. Join the conversation. Let me know what you think. Boundaries are so important. You tell someone your boundary, you have got to stick to it, because if they see that they can push through a boundary, they know that you're not about your words. They know that you're not about your words. You're not about that life. And she showed this perpetrator, this offender, that the B word was her boundary. And she absolutely was not going forward after that. Let me know what you think. I have a homie that took to Threads to vent. This is one of the first posts I saw this morning when I opened up my app. She says, so I'm fuming. I understand why not asking for advice. I'm still mad though, and have decided that social media is ideal to air my grievance. Okay, so I'm at Costco and at a table eating my hot dog, no bun, I don't care. And my husband sits down to eat his pizza. I start to tell him a story and ask his opinion. I'm interrupted by children walking by who think I'm in a Halloween costume. I'm not. I'm dressed gothy since there is a chill in the air. His eyes glaze over and he starts staring over my shoulder. The children and parents tell me how pretty I am and how they love my headband, which has a small flock of my emotional support glitter bats. I thank them. Himself looks annoyed, or he looks annoyed. They trundle off and I attempt to start my story again. He's still staring. I look over my shoulder to see a security guy with a dolly moving a shrub in a pot. That's it. He interrupts me, requests silence to stare harder. He literally cannot speak to me or make eye contact with me because of the man with the shrub. So now I'm annoyed and don't want to bother with the story situation because this is a habit of his. The singular inability to mind his damn business. His head is constantly swiveling around, trying to see what other people are doing. I'm obviously the opposite, so I stop talking, and he feels compelled to tell me that, sorry, I wasn't paying attention. This man has a bush. Tragically, this wasn't an innuendo. Him. Anyways, tell me your story. Soon as I open my mouth, he interrupts me again to tell me that it was funny that this security guy was carting around a bush. Then there's a smirk. I say, never mind. He can tell I'm annoyed. Go ahead and tell me your story. I'm listening now. Soon as I start to talk, I can see that he's holding back a smirk. He cannot hold a straight face. He starts grinning for no reason. I give up. He asks me to try again and promises he'll pay attention, but he literally can't keep the eating grin off of his face. So now I'm done. There's no point in continuing this conversation, and I let him know. I don't know if I'm adequately conveying this, but at this point, it's obvious that he's screwing with me and enjoying my annoyance. This isn't the first time. It's become a game. I refuse to play. Everything's supposed to be on his terms, including conversations. This was a way of putting me in my place. I've confronted him about it. He is aware it bothers me. So now I'm asking myself, is there a pattern to this behavior? And I realize there is. Strangers complimenting me. At first, years ago, he used to be pleased at the attention I received. But in the past few years, not so much. Audible huffing and rolling his eyes, making comments like, don't let what she said go to your head, and attempting to mimic my posture or mannerisms. And it just hit me today. This inability to hear me or pay attention to me because I'm so distracted by mundane stuff is an attempt to humble me and put me in my place. And that's why he's never distracted when he's talking to me. He's made comments about my clothing choices, makeup choices, hairstyles. You get the idea. But his appearance is irrelevant because he has the right to look any way he chooses. And I shouldn't be worried about what he looks like. Baby gap gangster, grungy AF. And I don't. Not a single F is spared for other adults' appearances. I don't care because I like what I look like. He's insecure, and when people remind him of his own issues, he makes it my problem by screwing with me. He isn't willing to step outside his comfort zone and dress like a grown-up, which would be fine if he didn't end up lashing out at me in some passive-aggressive way because he doesn't like the way people see him. So I put on my earbuds and a podcast. He lost the smirk. Tried to have a convo with me later. I'm still mad. I'm not dressing in sweatpants so he can feel like we are equals. I'm not going to pretend his BS behavior is okay. I'm tired. She continues with, also, I feel I should add that I'm not wearing anything revealing. Not that it should matter. Just saying nothing I wear can be construed as clothing designed for the male gaze. I mostly wear dresses and long skirts in the fall and winter, and in the summer I dress like I'm on vacation. Bright colors, voluminous skirts, flowy dresses, and wide leg pants. Tanks with kimonos and shorts. So his issue is literally that I'm well put together and receive compliments, usually from little women and girls. And you already know that not being able to dress for an occasion was something he mentioned was an issue in his past. Specifically, his ex being dressed inappropriately for business meetings and whatnot, overspending on brands, being shallow and materialistic, which makes the situation I find myself in pretty ironic. He complains that I make him feel shabby. How the F do I make him do anything? And why doesn't he try to sort out his issues rather than taking it out on me? And then she uses this picture or this video. She's just like, I just wanna, because she's upset because she's seeing him for what he really is. He's projecting his insecurities on her, and she didn't do anything except show up how she's always showed up. She dresses nicely. She likes to be put together. And he has known that the whole time that they had been a couple. Now, like I said, I know this person. She and I have been Facebook friends for years. I know how she dresses. And she is literally this gothy, witchy looking woman. And she stands out. You gotta love people that stand out, that know how they want to dress, and they dress that way. So he knew who he was marrying. So the fact that he is upset that she gets compliments when he's an adult man. He could take control of his own dress and dress like an adult, but he's choosing not to. And like she said, she doesn't care. She doesn't care how he's dressed. He's the one that's taking her getting compliments, feeling some type of way, and deciding to be passive aggressive. We do not like passive aggressive people. Like, stop doing that. I jump into her inbox and I'm talking to her and I'm like, you got a plan, don't you? She said that he's probably going to be blindsided soon. But when I said, you have a plan, she says, of course, I always do. The irony is men often think I'm too stupid to be planning for our inevitable breakup. How do you think I got my current house? I learned a valuable lesson about trusting men when I put my hard-earned money into my last house and he walked away with it. Fooled me once and all of that. Men want you to be honest with them and play fair with them while they continue to lie and misrepresent themselves. It's your choice to do that, but you need to understand that if you do, you're operating at a disadvantage. The thing is, these dudes are operating in a time long ago where women didn't have options. They think that they could still talk to women however they want, that they could treat women however they want. We're talking amongst ourselves. There was a man in her comments that got upset with her at this story because he's like, how are you going to sit here and then just talk mess about your husband or whatnot? And then I saw somebody else that says, why are women sitting up here making these posts looking for validation and stuff? But I think that it's important to talk about these types of things because other people might have seen this kind of like, or felt kind of weird, like this is off, but they might not have put it together like she had this aha moment. So with us talking about it, maybe another person can see like passive aggressive responses and how he is like ignoring something or ignoring her, or like can communicate when it's about him, but can't communicate or listen when it's something she wants to say. Women need to hear these types of things and continue to share our stories, even if some people don't like it when we share our stories. So let me know what you think about this. I have a lot of personal story times from people jumping into my inbox, and I haven't had a chance to get to them all, but I wanted to get to this one. So this woman says, hey, Burb, I must remain anonymous at all costs. When people jump into my inboxes, I do tend to let them stay anonymous. I post things. If somebody posted in the public square, I'll post it. But when you jump into my inbox, I'm blanking out your name. So this woman titled this one, Do It Afraid. How I Survived Loving a Narcissist. She says, I didn't understand the slamming doors at first, the silence, the heavy air, the way my heart would race whenever his car pulled up in the middle of the night. I was almost 17 when I met him, young and hopeful, certain that love meant staying loyal no matter what it cost me. He was 8 years older. At first, things were good. The affection felt real. The sex was passionate. And I believed I'd found my person. But slowly, everything changed. He started showing signs of emotional detachment, the kind I was too naive to recognize. Once, he told me that if I ever got sick, he'd take me to my parents because he wouldn't stoop to that level. I laughed then. I don't laugh about it now. I began living in constant fear without realizing it was abuse. If he stayed out late, I couldn't sleep. When he was near, my body would react before my mind could, trembling, anxious, alert. I could sense when he was coming home, and every time I heard his car, panic would overtake me. I would fake sleep just to avoid confrontation, lying still as my heart pounded like a drum in my ears. My life revolved around his moods. I was tuned into his emotions like a radar, always anticipating when he would want sex, when he would be angry, or when I needed to be quiet. I was exhausted physically, mentally, and spiritually. The turning point came when he invited his ex into our home. I came home from work, saw her there, and was told to finish dinner. When I refused, he ignored me completely. Later, he told me she was upset because she came to stay. I felt humiliated but said nothing. On another occasion, his ex called late at night and cursed me out. When I confronted him, he told me it was my fault and that I deserved it. I continued to function without conversation for days, and then one night, unprovoked, he strangled me unconscious. I didn't even realize I had blacked out until I came to and felt my body trembling against the floor. I tried to fight back, breaking whatever I could reach, but when I attempted to leave, he attacked me again. I laughed through my fear and told him to finish it. That confused him. He backed away but wouldn't let me leave. I was 19, broke, terrified, and trapped by fear and circumstance. Still, I stayed. He cheated and blamed me for not giving him enough sex or for constant infections. He mocked my illnesses and ignored my anxiety. Yet, I went to school, built myself quietly, and refused to depend on him financially. That independence angered him. He said I would leave once I finished school. Maybe he was right. Years passed and the relationship eroded what was left of my self-worth. I slept beside him but felt like a corpse. Every night brought new anxiety, new prayers asking God to forgive me of my sins, protect and provide for my family if it was my last night alive. I stopped recognizing myself. The woman I had become was hollow and numb. Then one night, after another long conversation about how much I was hurting, he reached for me again. Without thinking, I said, "Don't touch me. I don't want you inside my body." The silence that followed was deafening. I thought he would take me out that night. Instead, he told me in the morning to leave his keys and find somewhere to go after work. I had nowhere to go, but I went anyway. A friend gave me shelter. The following night, I went back, and that night I packed my things while he watched and told him in the morning I would pick up the next day. As I loaded my last bag into the car, he said, "All you have to do is have sex with me right now, and all of this goes away." I looked at him and said, "Forget you ever met me," and then I left. That was the day I saved my life. He thought I would crawl back. Instead, I rebuilt myself piece by piece. I found the strength in uncertainty, gratitude in survival. Recently, I ran into him at an event. He told me I was a good woman and joked that he was waiting for me to get married to him. I smiled and told him, "You'll never live to see that day, and I've always been a good woman." He was just never man enough to recognize it. I walked away, but I could hear his friends laughing, and I knew he felt like the scum he was. I gave most of my 20s to a man who never deserved me, but I'm thankful now because this appliance malfunctioned and it saved my life. If I could tell my younger self or any young woman one thing, it would be this. You can love someone deeply and still need to leave them. You can be afraid and still walk away. You can lose almost everything and still find yourself again. Don't confuse endurance with love. Don't mother a man. Don't dim your light to keep him comfortable. Understand his baseline and yours early before you build your life around him. And when fear whispers that you can't make it on your own, remember this. Do it afraid. Either it works or it doesn't, but it will never be a failure, only a lesson. Leave and never look back, because that's not the end of your story. That's the moment you start living it. I'm still a work in progress, but I finally understand something my younger self didn't. Survival is strength. Healing is rebellion, and choosing yourself every single time is the most radical act of love there is. She got with this man when she was 17 years old. He was much older, being 8 years older. He was already an adult and she wasn't. This is one of the reasons I do not like these age gap relationships. At 17 years old, she does not know anything about red flags and manipulation tactics. This is one of the reasons why I keep telling us adult women to make sure we are talking to our daughters and making sure that our daughters know that they always have a safe landing spot. Because if this young lady had a safe landing spot, especially after that initial incident where he he choked her unconscious, she would have had some place to go. But obviously she didn't have very many options. And that's the thing. We should be building up trust with our daughters so they know that they have a place to go to. So they're not staying with these people out of a sense of survival, like I need a place to stay. She survived, she rebuilt herself, and I am glad. But there are people who have not yet gotten out of these situations. We got to keep talking about these things so that we know, don't give your 20s to a man. Being single is better than this. We have to keep repeating these things over and over. Pour into yourself. Learn what you want. Learn how to have boundaries and be assertive and speak the things that you really want, and walk away from things that don't suit you. So I will end it there. Let's keep having these conversations. Before you watch this, please know and understand this is a trigger warning. There is abuse, there's sexual coercion, there's all kind of things. There's sensitive topics. But like she calls it, how I survived loving a narcissist. She does come out on the other end. So this is a story that does have an ending where she does save herself. So let's go ahead and jump into the story. When women post in these "Am I overreacting" and "Am I the a-hole" subreddits, they are simply looking for validation for feeling normal human emotions. This woman says, "Am I overreacting if I file for divorce?" Let's check out this caption and then we'll look at the text messages. She says, "I have felt desire to file for divorce for quite some time, but after finally learning how my husband really feels about me, I want to contact a divorce lawyer and file the paperwork soon. He's been abusive in multiple ways since we met. I've been going to therapy and learned I have a trauma bond with this man. I want to know if this marriage can possibly be salvaged or if that's my trauma bond thinking and we just need to be done." Please know and understand she put the word abusive in there, so that's already a red flag. She already knows that this is not a healthy situation. But I got to these text messages and this is not salvageable. Confused Pantaloons tagged me in saying this man is all sorts of entitled and should have just left this woman alone. I'm about to read these text messages to y'all and just chime in, just like let me know what pops out to you as I'm reading this. Let's look at this exchange. She's in blue. She says, "Your behavior has been off for a while, and I want your words to match your actions. I've always wanted that. I've asked for this repeatedly. You would want the same." And this part right here, this man says, "I don't think we should have gotten married." Okay, wow. But then she says, "I know you think that. The way things have been, I don't disagree. You've made it perfectly clear you'll fight for yourself. You'll fight to win, but I've never seen you fight for us." So she agrees with him. We shouldn't have gotten married. Listen to his response. Listen to his response. "You don't disagree? Your expectations of me are too high. I told you I'm going to change and you won't give me any time." And then she says, 10 years. I had no idea that meant I didn't give you any time. Weird. And then she says, "My expectations are the bare minimum and they're too high. So you won't have a problem eating maybe once a week then, since the bare minimum is all that's needed." He says, "That's ridiculous and not the same at all. Food is needed for survival." Part of this gets cut off, but it says, "I wanted you to take care of me. I didn't know I'd have to take care of you. I'm trying to change that mindset. I wanted you to take care of me. I wanted this to be a one-sided relationship, but what kind of relationship is this where I have to actually do something as well?" I'm waving a red flag at this whole thing. And then she says, "Not being manipulated, gaslighted, used as a maid, used as a lady of the night, and a hell of a lot more are needed for the longevity of a marriage. No, you're not. You talk a good game, but behavior is the only language I am listening to now." And then he says, "I'm trying to change, but it's not easy. I think it's weird to be married to one woman for the rest of my life. I sympathize with gay men in straight marriages because they don't get to have everything they wanted. Like I don't get what I really want. The trophy wife physically and spiritually." He says, I don't get what I really want. The trophy wife physically and spiritually. The validation they would get from the public at having such a beautiful and great wife. While yes, you are attractive, you're not a supermodel. It's hard to be with someone who isn't as good looking as I am. He says, I think about it often. My life would be a lot easier if I was married to someone as good looking as I am. Y'all, my mind is blown that anybody would have the nerve, the audacity, the temerity to type this. All she did was type ... after that. After her ... he says, I know I keep hurting you and I'm sorry you feel hurt, but what else should I say? She says, the truth. At least you finally gave me the courtesy of having your words match your actions. At least I can move on and move forward with what's true. He says, move on? Are you leaving me? He is now shocked and appalled, or seemingly shocked and appalled, even though over here, he says, I don't think we should have gotten married. But at this particular juncture, you got this really attractive man. I'm just imagining he's really attractive. And he has this woman that is not as attractive as him, according to him. And she has the nerve to finally just get a backbone or something and leave. And he is shocked because he was kind of shocked right here. Like, you don't disagree? Like, he's seeing that she's going to move on, and he's like, move on? What? So he really thought that he's going to type that, I wish I had somebody that was good looking. And she's like, you know what? You're right. You should have someone that's good looking. He's like, what? I have no idea what goes through some of these people's minds as they are typing things or saying things to the women in their lives. Let's look at a few of these comments. Massive Song says, it's hard to be with someone who isn't as good looking as I am. Not overreacting. Please file for divorce. Marsupial Mouskowitz says, dude probably looks like a fungus-infested toe demanding his wife be as attractive as him. Me and OK Caterpillar agree. She says, I really want to see a picture, but I know plenty of men like this who are bald and fat and think they're such a prize. I guarantee this dude is not nearly as good looking as he thinks. Swell Monsieur says, even if he is good looking, it's not eternal. It can be as quick as a car accident or as long as the slow march of time, but good looks always fade. If you're nasty inside, it shines through eventually. The veneer gets too thin. Nara Yani says, my husband was so handsome to me. Now he's in his late 70s. He has lost most of his teeth. We're getting him implants, but it's a multi-year process. Shuffles because his knees hurt so bad. He has lost so much weight that his pants sag. He is still so handsome to me. Barb Who says, exactly. I admit that my husband wasn't what people would call conventionally attractive when he was young, but I always thought he looked amazing. He has aged into his looks when so many of our age cohort are falling apart. I loved him then and I love him now. He's my grumpy old man. And as far as I know, he loves me just as much now that I'm old and saggy as when I was young and cute. OP's husband wants to date supermodels. Hope he has plenty of money. Because his attitude, his personality ain't gonna catch somebody and keep them. And then Cute Lingonberry says, and the understanding that supermodels have lots of options, including cheating on him at will. Karma is a B word. Nearby Swordfish says, I wonder what the vows were. I'm so familiar with this type of narcissistic, childish piece of poop. It took me 8 years to escape one I shared a business with. I can't even imagine a bed. Here's the OP says, he never wrote any. That along with 50 other things that were a red flag. Nearby Swordfish says, well, your time is the most valuable thing you own and your mental health will dictate how much you enjoy it. No matter how hard or messy, pull that Band-Aid off and start your next chapter ASAP. People like that only take and always will. And with that, I'm going to leave it. She already knows what she needs to do. She sees it. We all see it. I know people do say divorce really quickly, but what is the purpose in sticking and staying with somebody that lets you know I am not attracted to you, and I don't think we should have gotten it. What is the purpose in sticking and staying with somebody like that? Absolutely none. Join the conversation and let me know what you think.
If the food stamps get cut off in November, why are we waiting to see what the churches are going to do? We don't need to wait. We already see what they have and have not been doing. They've been taking up 1,000 on top of 1,000, yet the most churched people in the world are still on that program. And even if they don't go to your church, sir or ma'am, they're still a part of your community. With as much money that has been taken up, what's going to happen is some churches are going to show up in November to save face, to try to prove that the church is still relevant and we're not like the others. Other pastors are going to fuss from that pulpit, y'all. I keep saying pit. Pulpit, it's going to be in my book. And they're going to say things like, we can't help the community because y'all haven't been giving. You haven't been giving 1,000 on top of 1,000 on top of 1 million. You're standing in the wrong line. That's why we can't help the community. You're not standing in the line that I told you to stand in. The poor have been with us always. The needy have been with us always. The hungry have always been with us. And that's sad if they're taking up billions and billions of dollars every year. So instead of saying, let's see what the churches are going to do, let's see what we're going to do. Keep your money if you've been tithing and giving offering. And if you see other people that need help, let's help ourselves. Let's help each other. Forget them. They haven't thought about y'all in years, decades. So don't think about them. Let's think about ourselves. Feed ourselves and feed each other. Yes, this is a great time for some churches to redeem themselves, but we shouldn't care because once this natural disaster fades, they're going to go right back to pimping. They're going to go right back to preaching about how God wants you to give, how God wants you to help pay his bills. This is what my page and the shift is all about. Helping ourselves, taking our resources, #Saving Sunday. Take your money back, take your time back, take your resources back on Sunday. Help yourself and then help each other.